Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to take a side-by-side comparison look against two basic entry-level sports cars, the 2022 Ford Mustang Ecoboost against the Chevrolet Camaro 1LS. So as I mentioned, both of these are the basic trim level for each brand. It's really awesome to see that you can pretty much go with any model that you want, just depending on the power you want, the technology that you want, or if you just want to get into something basic, you want that sports car style, and you have a budget, you don't want to spend a lot of money. Both of these are right around the $30,000 mark. So let's get into it. We're going to take a look at the exterior as well as the interior, throw in some quick test drives from reviewing these in person, and then I'll come back with my final thoughts. So as we move on to the Mustang, this has a 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine. This model here is paired to the 10-speed automatic transmission. However, you can go with a 6-speed manual. It pumps out 310 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent to the rear wheels. It weighs in right around 3,500 pounds. Will do 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, up to its top speed of 155 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 15.5 gallons. You'll expect to see around 21 miles per gallon in the city and 32 out on the highway. Over on the Camaro, this has a little bit smaller engine. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission. Again, you can get a manual for the Camaro as well. And it pumps out a little bit less horsepower. It's at 275 and 295 for the torque. Power sent to the rear wheels, of course, weighs a little bit less at 3,300 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds and a little bit higher top speed at 157. The fuel tank is also bigger at 19 gallons, and you'll expect to see around 20 miles per gallon in the city and 30 out on the highway. And then as we work our way to the Mustang now, you'll notice that the front end has a very distinctive look. The grille is really narrow and wide, filling in the space between both of the headlights. We have plenty of cutouts in that grille as well to provide cooling to that EcoBoost engine. And this model also has LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals. So for a basic Mustang, really nice to see that it still has that lighting. Of course, great for at night. There's plenty of cutouts and contoured lines in the front end, just giving it that Mustang style. Very aggressive for a basic entry-level model. It's nice to see that the front end still retains some of the designs on the higher trim levels, especially the GT500. Now obviously there's going to be some differences here or there, but it's really nice to see we even have functional air inlets on both sides. They're functional in the hood as well, which is great to see. And as we move on to the Camaro now, it slightly resembles the Mustang. We have that narrow and wide grille just in between the headlights, and it's kind of nice how it's a little recessed in. The headlights are just up underneath the hood line there as well as the grille, and there's a small lip just above the white section in the middle portion of the bumper. So it's very recessed, gives it more of a distinctive look. Plenty of cutouts in both the upper and the lower grille. The Chevy bow tie is solid on some of the higher trim levels that will be hollow, just to provide even more cooling. But it has a really nice design, same functional air inlets that you'll see on both sides of the bumper. So again, for a base model, nice to see that. Great hood lines too, they match nicely with how the Mustang had some lines coming down the hood. And then working our way to the side of this Mustang, we have a set of 17-inch wheels. Very basic for this model, 5-spoke design looks great. There's really not much else to talk about on the side profile. We have the body colored mirrors, no turn signals, anything like that, no sunroof, just a really nice sporty design that has all of the lines in the side of it, just giving you that cool sporty look. And then on the Camaro, you'll see the wheels are very similar, just more of a split 5-spoke design instead of all being solid. 17-inch wheel again. The Camaro badge is also behind that. And then like the Mustang, really not much to talk about. Body colored mirrors, nothing in the mirrors, no sunroof available. Really nice lines running down the sides. And then once we get to the rear of the Mustang, I love the fact that this has the sequential turn signal design. Very iconic for the Mustang in the later models. They have that 3D shape to them just to give it some nice looks. We have the backup camera, the dual exhaust as well. And then over on the Camaro, these still have a 3D design for the taillights. They don't have that sequential look, but it's really nice to see the dual ovals on both sides of the trunk. We have the same dual exhaust in the lower bumper as well. Both of them have a backup camera, which is of course great. No parking sensors though. And working our way to the trunk space now for the Mustang, it has a lot of room with the back seats up. Very usable. There's even some storage up underneath the floor where this has the spare tire, which not many sports cars have, so it's nice to see that. With the seats folded down, there is a lot more space, which makes it a very practical daily driver. As we work our way to the Camaro now, the only downside with this trunk is that it's very narrow to get items in. It's a large trunk once you actually get into it, but the surround for it is very narrow, making larger objects harder to get in, but the back seats still fold down. So that does give you some more versatility. However, it is a little bit harder to get items in, as I just mentioned. So that is the one drawback, but they both have pretty practical amounts of storage for that cargo area. And now as we work our way to the interior of this Mustang, it is very basic. We do have some nice trim pieces that you can see on the grab handle as well as the release handle. Really not much else. We have the window controls as well as one speaker and some storage in the door. And these seats are also manual, so you have the manual adjustment to be able to even get into the back seats. There's the bar in the front as well as a height adjustment too, but everything is manual, so you do have to move that seat in order to gain access into the back. And once you do, you're not buying the Mustang or the Camaro for a full 4-seater vehicle, but they are practical. At my height, which is 5'10", I could make it work going around town. Now, as you can see, if you have the seat all the way back, there is absolutely no leg room. And working our way back to the Camaro for the door panel, I think this is a lot nicer. We have a lot of different shapes, really nice trim piece that surrounds the grab handle as well as the window controls. There's leather on the armrest, even a release for the trunk. So it has a little bit more components to it compared to the Mustang. And then the seats are very similar, finished off in cloth, have a two-tone design, just to give it more of an upscale look for being a base model. These seats, however, are automatic, so all those adjustments are down on the side, just making it a little bit easier to get into the back. And when you pull that handle on the top, you still do have to move the seat, but it's nice that you can do it automatic. And then the room in the back seats is going to be very similar. You can see my legs are just up against the seat, but like I said in the Mustang, it's doable. You have a little bit more headroom though in the Camaro, which is great. And as we work our way to the interior now for the Mustang, the gauge cluster is very basic. We have a small LCD screen right in the middle where you can go through a lot of vitals. You have a lot of information to go through, which is great to see. There's different modes. You can look at all of your vitals. You can go into the line lock, look at your TPMS. There are so many different screens that you can go through, so it makes it really nice just to be able to get to that information. And then over on the Camaro, it's a little bit different of a design, but there's still a small screen right in the middle, all of your important vitals that you can go through. So while they are different, they do have very similar information, going through these gauge clusters to look at everything that you need. And then on the Mustang, as we work our way to the center, this has the Sync 3 system. It's not touchscreen, there's no navigation, it is truly basic. You can go through basically all of your radio controls, you can hook up your phone at least, which is nice. And then all of the controls underneath that are easily readable with the climate controls, being able to adjust volume and starting it up. And then there's only a few buttons that are just next to the engine start stop. One of them is for the steering, so you can control the steering input with a few different modes, which is nice. It gives it a little bit more feedback for a base model, which is great to see. And then over on the Camaro, this has a 7-inch touchscreen system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So you can actually pair your phone to this system. You can go through a lot more information, and the Camaro is slightly cheaper than the Mustang. So it's really nice to see that you actually have some of these technology features to make it a little bit more daily drivable, and having this screen here makes it look like it's more on the upscale version with some of the higher trim levels. Underneath that, there are a few buttons for the volume controls. We have all of the climate controls as well. And you can even use the fans to turn on and off the climate and adjust the temperature. Really cool to see that incorporated into a base model like this. So getting this 2022 Ford Mustang Ecoboost out on the road, this is pretty much the base of the line, or the base model for the Mustang. We have the smaller engine, we have the 10-speed automatic, and that is pretty much it. The Sync 3 system in the middle is probably as basic as you can get with just having that screen to show you a few items. You can at least pair your phone to it, which is nice to see. So if you have a budget, you have around 30 grand, you want a fun, sporty car, and you don't really need all those extra bells and whistles, honestly, this is a cool vehicle just because it's a Mustang, it's a sports car. If you want a Mustang, again, you don't need power, you don't want the manual transmission, you just want a everyday sports car that you can drive. That's also practical, having the backseat room and the amount of trunk storage space. This is a great option. We don't have the paddle shifters, but I can put it into the S mode there. And just with a mild acceleration, it gets up to speed. I mean, we have over 300 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque, so it's not a slow vehicle compared to other Mustang trim levels. Yes, it's not as quick, but it still has an adequate amount of power for the size and the weight of this vehicle. The 10-speed in this is also a really good transmission. While I can't see what gear the vehicle is in, even with the 10-speed, it doesn't feel like there are so many gears or that many gears. And I like that about the Ford 10-speed transmission. So I've been in some other Ford models that have it, and while 10-speed sounds like a lot of gears, don't know what gear we're in, probably 4th or 5th, but it doesn't feel like it has that many gears. So probably 7, 8, 9, and 10 are going to be all the overdrive gears when you're out on the highway to keep those RPMs at a low range. And we're coming up to a bit of a sharp left turn, so we can see how these brakes perform, as well as just going around this turn for a Mustang. Can it take the turn? That's surprising. For a base Mustang, handled that well, plenty of power. We don't have the upgraded brakes or anything like that, but it just felt like a solid turn for a base model vehicle. We've reviewed a ton of Camaros for the channel. This is the first 1LS that I've been behind the wheel of. A few weeks ago, I drove a ZL1, which had well over 600 horsepower. This has less than half of that, but I really like the fact that you can get a Camaro that fits your budget. We have a huge range of different engine options, different transmission options. You really have a lot of different options to spec the Camaro based on what you're looking for and what you can afford. So let's go ahead and pop this into the sport mode here, because we do have these paddle shifters, so we can go down to second gear, give it a little bit of gas. Let's go ahead and pop it into sport mode as well. The paddles aren't quite as responsive as some of the other Camaros that I've been behind the wheel of, but it has plenty of pep. You know, we got up to the speed limit there. I wouldn't say it's a fast car, but it's a nice sports car. If you're not looking for that added performance that you can get behind the wheel of a Camaro, this is a great option. If you're looking for that sports car design, you want the practicality to be able to drive this every single day, as well as being able to fit in items into the back there. So I think this is a great option for someone who's not looking for that performance-oriented car. I have it in normal automatic mode now. We'll give it a little bit of gas. Honestly, it's not really that slow. That wasn't even half throttle there, and we are up to speed. It's not a loud car either. Even with the different driving modes there, the exhaust note didn't change. So if you're not looking for a loud exhaust, this is very quiet. Now switching over to the POV angle, we have it in the sport mode. Just a mild acceleration up to speed. It really doesn't feel like it's underpowered. It has a healthy amount of horsepower for this 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine, which is nice to see. So while it's a base model, it doesn't really have that base feeling engine, since it has over 300 for both horsepower and torque. Very solid feeling vehicle. I haven't talked about the steering. I have had it in normal so far. We have comfort, which gets very loose. Sport mode, I can feel it get a little bit tighter. So if you're on some twisty roads like this, you can put it into that mode just to get a little bit more driver feedback. And then a quick look at visibility. For the Mustang, it's not all that bad. As we do a quick UE here, very tight in the turning radius, but over my left shoulder I can see a little bit out of that back window. Over my right shoulder, pillar's not all that bulky, so you really have a 360-degree view, which is great to see. And as we come up to this hard right now, going the opposite direction, we'll give it some gas on the exit. So on the brakes, very solid car, very solid for the price point. So switching over to the POV angle now, we'll give it a little bit of gas. just in normal mode there, and we're up to speed fine. As you can tell, you probably couldn't hear the exhaust. As I mentioned earlier, it's not a loud car at all, which makes it nice. If you're daily commuting this, you're going to work, you know, to grocery store, things like that, and you don't want a loud vehicle, this is perfect for that. Of course, you could upgrade the exhaust if you wanted to, but it's nice how quiet this is. And we're gonna go ahead, pop it over into the sport mode there. Using the dial down below, we'll put it into the sport mode for the driving mode. You can see what gear you're in on the right bottom corner there. A little bit of a delay in these paddles here. I don't think they will be used often, but if you want to use them, if you want to control the gear you're in, maybe you're taking this on some back roads, you can definitely use them, which is great to see. I haven't talked about visibility yet while we're at a stoplight here. The Camaro has some pillars in the back there, but honestly, it's not that hard to see in all directions. It's something that you get used to if you drive this all the time. So it's really not all that bad for a sports car like this. I haven't been on too many twisty roads, but the steering input is actually really good. You can see the moment I turn this steering wheel, we are going exactly where the car is going. So I like that aspect to it. While it's not the top of the line Camaro, we still have great performance for it. And so with all of that information out of the way, my final thoughts on the Ford Mustang Ecoboost against the Chevrolet Camaro 1LS. Honestly, both of them are really good options, just depending on what you're looking for and which one you prefer. There's going to be hardcore Mustang fans and hardcore Camaro fans. But with the Mustang, the Camaro, and even the Challenger, just personal preference. The Challenger is a lot bigger. We didn't talk about that today, obviously. So the Mustang and the Camaro are more competitors, I would say, and both have a lot of nice features to offer. The Mustang is a little bit more basic for a similar price compared to this Camaro, having the larger screen. Both are going to drive really nicely. They both have a great sound for the engine that they have. There's plenty of room in the back seats, plenty of room for the trunk. However, as I mentioned earlier, the Camaro is a little bit tighter to get into that trunk space. But overall, really nice basic sports cars if you're looking for the design of a sports car, but you don't really care about the higher performance, you don't need all of that technology necessarily, you just want a nice car that you can drive from point A to point B and is going to be practical, especially if this is your only vehicle and you're driving it every single day. So comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Would you go with the Ford Mustang or would you go with the Chevrolet Camaro? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.